Welcome back. Okay, it's a new expansion. We're going to gear some characters, and it can all be a bit overwhelming, so today I'm just going to make it all really simple for you.
You'll have 2 full weeks plus a few days from launch to Season 1, giving you time to get characters set up. Here you'll have the endgame questline to do, some stages of which are unlocked by gaining reputation with the major factions, dragon riding glyphs to collect, reputations to earn, professions, and then some immediate gearing goals, which we'll focus on today. Also, there are a fair few new things versus Shadowlands, especially today's sponsor.
HelloFresh. Look, I just can't go on eating processed food and wasting my money on delivery apps, which is why I use HelloFresh, where the code Bellular70 will get you 70% off, plus free shipping. Now, their meal kit service is absolutely killer. It's one of the easiest ways to just directly improve your quality of life. All I've got to do is select meals ahead of time on their app. Then they're delivered in a cooled box. I store the food, and that's grocery time done. And when it's time to cook, and today it's a delicious and very quick to cook dal, I just grab the recipe bag and the refrigerated ingredients, I follow their step-by-step recipe, and that's it. Everything is pre-measured, and in their rapid meals, which is so handy for me, they've got awesome time savers, like, the pre-diced chicken, just little time savers like that are great. So the hassle of the shopping and the planning is gone. And since you get what you need, there's no random food waste or just tiny amounts of ingredients laying around cluttering up your home. Now, the dal was absolutely delicious, by the way, and dead easy to prep. It's also just a great way to ease yourself into cooking. So they're carbon neutral, they ship in recyclable packaging, they cut food waste by 25%. Versus fast food, they are cheaper, faster, and much more healthy, with complete nutritional information included. HelloFresh truly is a boon to my quality of life, so check them out below at that link where code Bellular70 will get you 70% off. Thank you to HelloFresh, and let's go. Well, this one's simple. Dungeons drop gear. The highest level of that, obviously, is that the 8 Dragonflight dungeons can be done on Mythic 0 difficulty, dropping item level 372 gear. This, of course, is excellent, meaning that you will want to clear all 8 dungeons once per week for these 2 weeks. Heroics, of course, are handy in that they are spammable, and they could be a fast way for you to get some gear to bridge the gap. Now, doing Mythic dungeons will also earn you Titan training matrices. These can drop from the final boss. They're an optional crafting resource that is bound on pickup. Now, don't worry if you're not a crafter, the work order system lets you benefit from these, and I will cover it later. So TLDR, do dungeons. Next then, we've got Primal Storms. So if you remember the pre-patch event, this will be familiar. Primal Storms are a new feature where every 6 hours, 2 Dragon Isle zones will have a Primal Storm. It'll be marked in your world map. These last for 2 hours, and when they end, a 6-hour timer will start, and then the next one will begin. These, of course, are aspected to Earth, Fire, Wind, and Water, and they will cause Primalist NPCs to spawn, and also buff up some mobs in the zone. There are no specific objectives for these, rather it's really just a mob grind for currency. Now, there are 2 currencies, Elemental Overflow and Storm Sigils. Overflow just drops from the mobs. It's got no limit. Storm Sigils, though, are your main concern. You get these from turning in primal cores to an NPC in Valdrakken called Rethishi. Now, these cores are either going to be air, water, fire, or earth, and you can only turn in 1 per element per week, meaning you can earn a total of 4 Storm Sigils per week. Okay, to what end then? Well, Mithressa and Rethilshi, names are hard, both sell gear. One of them sells item level 359 Raging Tempest gear, which has 2, 4, and 6 set bonuses. And this stuff costs Elemental Overflow, meaning you'll be able to grind these up pretty easily. Then, Rethilshi, I'll just pronounce her differently every time, I guess, sells item level 385 Raging Tempest gear that also has a set bonus. Now, these will cost your initial gear plus Storm Sigils, with the armor costing between 5 and 10 Storm Sigils, and weapons costing between 5 and a rather massive 14 for two-handers. So this definitely is a bit of a slower gearing path. But it is one where, at best, you'll have 2 slots of the 385 gear by the end of the launch fortnight. So while not the most exciting thing, I imagine this will be a solid source of loot, and it should be doable in a group in not that much time, be that with friends, or of course the pre-made group finder, which probably will be packed with people. Now that said, World PvP gear actually has quite a similar system that still is relevant to you for your PvE gear, so we'll cover that in a little bit. Crafting has seen massive change in this expansion, and crafted PvE gear is likely going to be useful to you. So, it starts at a very low item level, but if you remember the Titan training matrices that I mentioned earlier, well, they are optional reagents. They can be added into these armor crafts to allow the armor to be crafted at a higher item level. Now remember, output quality of crafts also does depend on the crafter's skill. As an example, heroic dungeons drop a rank 3 Titan training matrix. This will cause gear to be crafted between item level 359 and 369. The item level that you actually get will depend on the crafter's material quality, specialization, profession gear, and profession skill. There could be a bit of RNG very early on, but eventually people will have enough skill that they'll always be able to make these items at the highest quality. It is a significantly more deep system, but just as a user of that system, you won't need to worry because I'll cover work orders shortly. So, Mythic 0 end bosses get us what we really want, and that is the Titan Training Matrix rank 4. That lets gear be crafted up to item level 282, which is very high for this pre-season period. This, of course, further emphasizes the importance of doing the Mythic 0 dungeons because that's what they drop. Now, beyond this item level, we do have Primal Infusions and the Engine of Innovation. But those are only applicable for Season 1, so you really don't have to worry about them now. There's also crafted PvP gear, and I'll cover that a little later. World quests then just operate as they have in the past, to be honest. There's nothing particularly new. Rare mobs drop BoE gear that is in the 360s. I think it's 364, and I guess because it's BoE gear, it'll be on the auction house, but it's not massively important gear, so let's guide on ahead to the basics of PvP, because even if you're a PvE person, it is relevant to you. PvP gear works similar to how it did in Warlords of Draenor, where its item level is scaled to a fixed value when doing PvP content. Now, the items are still upgradable, it's just that the upgrades only impact their PvE item level, and that ensures that the PvP content will be a bit more fair and easier to get into, but it still gives those players some gear power progression. Now, Honor gear starts at item level 340, which is real low, but it scales up to 411 in PvP. Now that Honor gear can then, with more Honor points, be upgraded to a PvE item level of 366. There's also a Conquest vendor, of course, but again, that will be relevant until Season 1 begins. Next then, War Mode. This is actually kind of cool. So Militia sells item level 366 Drake Breaker gear sets and weapons that scale up to item level 408 in PvP. Much like then, with the Primal Storm gear I covered for PvE content, there is an other tier above these that requires a time-limited resource. Primal Infused Drakebreaker gear then is really strong. It's basically the equivalent to the Primal Infused Raging Tempest gear, the only difference being that it is particularly strong in PvP. Now, since this is World PvP, there might be some nice situations where you'll be able to progress both of these at the same time. Okay, let's talk about the currencies then. The base set here is earned by doing activities on the Dragon Isles with War Mode enabled. That will get you the currency that you need, and that's just doing PvP-specific world quests, war supply crates, that kind of thing. So, Trophies of Strife, in addition to the base pieces of gear, are needed to get the 385 set. Now, these come from the Sparks of Life quest. This quest takes place on one of the 4 zones of the Dragon Isles. Each week, it awards 4 Trophies of Strife, 500 honor, and 50 Dragon Isle supplies. Basically, the Trophies of Strife are very similar to the Storm Sigils. I mean, they basically have the same costs. So if you're willing to do some PvP, this will be a fantastic boost, getting you, I guess, a guaranteed like 2 to 4 between the Storm gear and the World PvP gear, bits of 385 gear for the start of Season 1, which will be pretty damn nice. To move on to crafted PvP gear, basically it works in much the same way as the PvE gear, with the item level benefits coming from the Titan training matrices. Okay, let's cover some other things. So reputation gear, each of the Dragonflight 4 main factions do sell gear ranging from item level 376 to 389. This is in return for Dragon Isle supplies, and there's nothing crazy to say here other than do the reputation content. That's pretty much that. This gear costs Dragon Isle supplies, which are a generic currency that you get from doing the majority of activities on the Isles. So you'll want to do the Siege event, you'll want to do the Tuskar cooking pot event, things like that on a regular basis. And as you progress your reps, you'll get the currency, and this will slowly get you a trickle of pretty good gear. Next then, there's a weekly quest that can be picked up in Valdrakken. You should pick this up as soon as you can. It will ask you to earn reputation with factions and potentially to do another activity. If you complete this quest, you'll get item level 382 gear, which I think makes it a bit of a must, as well as more reputation, Dragon Isle supplies, and then an item that furthers your profession specializations, and Primal Chaos. Now, Primal Chaos is important because it's used in the higher end crafting, but that's crafting that is only relevant for Season 1, so we'll talk about that when the time is right. Crafting orders then. So, what happens if you want crafted gear but you're not a crafter? Well, the work order system exists. So you'll be earning these Titan training matrices and other miscellaneous currencies from doing content, and these will be used in professions. But you don't have the profession, no problem. You just go to the work order NPC. And here, you place a work order for the gear that you want, and you supply your soul-bound, Titan training matrix. A crafter can then fulfill the order for you. Payment and delivery are all handled by the work order system, making it nice and simple. Okay, here's my weekly checklist. This is what I will be doing. Number 1, I will get 4 Storm Sigils from the Primal Invasions. I'll get 4 of the Trophies of Strife from the War Mode quest. I'll do all 8 dungeons at Mythic 0 difficulty. I'll also level up my tailoring so that I can craft my own gear using Titan training matrices for my priest. I'm of course going to clear all of the reputation content that I can so that my weekly reputation earned quest is finished. Now, I'm not going to use my Storm Sigils or my Trophies of Strife initially. I'm going to bank them up until the start of Season 1, because I would rather do all of those Mythic Zeros and then kind of fill in slots that I don't get from drops. Maybe I won't wait until Season 1, maybe I'll just wait until I've done all of the Mythic dungeons on week 2, and then after those dungeons are done, then I'll do the purchasing. Similar goes for crafted gear then. Depending on the Titan training matrices that I get, I will just craft the best quality armor that I can. And overall, that's really the essence of it. Look, for me, this is all quite great. I really love WoW dungeons. They're fun, especially Mythic Zeros, right, where you don't have the timer, so I think that's really cool, especially doing them at a lower item level where there's some challenge. That's dead fun. The world quests in this expansion are much better. They're a bit more paced like the Legion ones, and of course we benefit from flying around on a big, cool dragon riding mount. The Primal Storms are, they're grand. Kind of okay either way. I mean, who knows, maybe I'll get into a Gulp Frog-like farming thing. Personally, I really enjoy world PvP, so that's really good. And with all the new reputations, I want to do them anyway because they have unraveling storylines, and there's the whole endgame campaign that Blizzard kept off the beta that is unlocked as you rank up with your profession. So that'll all be fun to do for its own sake, and I'll unlock some gear along the way. Of course, same goes for professions, which look great. So overall, I think that, say, Shadowlands had a pretty strong honeymoon period. I think that Dragonflight is set up to have actually a even better honeymoon period, and unlike Shadowlands, it doesn't seem like this expansion is going to immediately trip up and fall over in its face, which is quite nice as well. So, if you want more help in the game, you can check out this video, potentially maybe check out our Dragon series if you want to learn about some lore, and that's it from me.